I got the chance to rent a room in my area to build a recording studio for my YouTube tutorials and audio recordings. Unfortunately, the room was in a terrible condition.
So, das sind 34 Quadratmeter, die ganze Fläche. Steinboden.
So there were two problems I had to solve: the reverberation in the room and making the room soundproof against outside noise. Originally, this was one big room, a tiny anteroom and a bathroom. And when I first inspected my newly rented room, I almost got a heart attack when I stood next to the water pipe in the bathroom. Someone from the apartments above flushed the toilet, and obviously all the crap fell down 5 stories and slammed into the cross pipe here in the basement. No way of shooting video or recording anything via a mic like that, so I first had to make this water pipe soundproof. We simply put soundboards around the pipe, then tons of rock wool, and then another layer of soundboards outside. And I'm telling you this because you may have a similar problem in your basement too. Although the noise was already muffled, it still needed more isolation, so I decided to soundproof the doors. Now you have to understand the difference between soundproofing and absorbing. You can't just slam any foam on the doors and walls and think it may do what you want. There is no universal foam that does everything. If you want to prevent sound from entering or leaving a room, that's called soundproofing. You need very thick and dense foam to soundproof a room. The thicker and denser the foam, the more isolation. If you want to treat the sound of a room regarding reverberation, for example, you need absorbers that swallow the reverb. Absorbers are open-pore, lightweight foams, but we'll get to that later. I had very dense foam cut to size and glued it on the bathroom door and the front room door. Always put your foam on that side of the door where the noise is coming from. There was still a little bit of sound that kind of climbed the walls from the bathroom and the hallway, so I decided to separate the main room and have some guys build me a soundproof drywall. The same technique was being used as with the water pipe. We used the best soundboard available that already had a 60 dB sound attenuation, then rock wool and soundboards again. The soundboards are held by some steel posts every 60 centimeters, and the drywall is acoustically decoupled from the stone walls and the ceiling, so no sound waves can travel through the walls in either direction. And of course you need a soundproof door and door frame too. So this is a 150 kilogram door with double rubber insulation on the door frame. And there is also a rubber insulation on the door itself, on the bottom of the door, that automatically lowers as soon as the door closes. So no sound coming through a gap. Most people think they need a carpet to absorb reverb. And while a carpet does that, it mostly absorbs high frequencies. I used a vinyl hard click system. Looks like wood, but it's industrial vinyl. Vinyl is really good for basements because it's robust against water and mold. And of course, it also helps with the dust mites allergy. Next, we had to determine the status quo in terms of reverberation. I have a degree in audio engineering, but acoustic treatment was never my area of expertise, so I asked my friend to help me with that. The first thing we had to do was measuring the reverberation across the frequency range. The main problem with this room was a 6-second long reverb tail across all frequencies, but the biggest issue was the bass frequencies. You get a drone-like sound, and bass frequencies are hard to treat. You need either a lot of mass like huge bass traps or small bass traps that are very, very expensive. Philip suspected that the nature of that ceiling construction caused a lot of that church-like sound. Since I only rent this room, I couldn't change the nature of the ceiling. So the first thing we did was installing 6 ceiling absorbers in equal distances from each other. If you don't have such a massive problem, you usually only need 1 ceiling sail, right above your desk, and maybe an additional one where you record with microphones. Now I added in basic furniture that I needed anyway. I went for a bigger couch because it already swallows plenty of reverb. So next we had to get rid of the main problem, the low frequency reverberation. Since I have enough space here, I went for the large tube-like bass traps from Hofer. I got myself 2 of these baby bass traps from Hofer because you can really put them anywhere in the room, and they really make great table substitutions. So it doesn't really matter where you put them in a room, and they even swallow more bass frequencies. I have 2 of these in each corner, with the exception of the couch corner, because obviously they don't fit in here. So I had to go for the more expensive, smaller bass traps from Acoustic. Since these kinds of bass traps don't rely on mass, you have to put them right where the ceiling meets the corners. That was not completely possible here, but close enough is good enough. Now that the low frequencies were tamed, I called my acoustic guy again to measure the room more exactly and see where we need to add more absorbers for mid and high frequencies.
And then we start the measurement itself.
All right.
So the level appears to be okay. I'm using REW. It's a free program.
We found that there are several spots in the room that had a flutter echo. A flutter echo consists of multiple distinct, rapid repetitions of the original sound, and these can be very annoying. If you don't have the ability to measure a room yourself, you can walk around the room and clap your hands. You'll immediately hear the spots that are problematic. Usually this happens between 2 plain parallel walls. I had several in the room, but the most persistent one occurred between these 2 walls, right in my listening and video recording position. So I hung these Pat Fleas mid-range absorbers on each wall, exactly opposite of each other. That's the same material the ceiling absorbers are made of. These absorbers are great for basements because they are mold resistant, so you can hang them directly on the wall and air will still be able to pass through. I use these absorbers because they are easier to glue to the door while the other absorbers have a wall hook, and they do basically the same but look super cool. Then we have this absorber that looks like a picture, and you can choose between different designs, by the way. This absorber swallows the reflections coming from these speakers, and it also prevents the flutter echo coming from the opposite wall and the infrared heating panel. Diffusers don't absorb the sound, but reflect it back into the room. But these reflections are mathematically spread evenly, so that there won't be a concentration of reflections just in one spot. That way the room gets lively again while still getting rid of the flutter. Diffusers look funny because they really do a mathematical calculation with these blocks. But there are also these cheaper kind of diffusers that look like a typesetting box. They're mathematically calculated as well. Each of these boxes have a different depth. Isn't it amazing how this room changed? You can do so much with little money if you know where to put your absorbers. This was a nightmare of a room that you will probably not have to deal with. So take your time, measure the room, or clap your hands until they get sore and place your absorbers exactly where needed. If you like this video, please give it a fat thumbs up because it's really so important for me as a creator. Please share the love and the knowledge. Hit that like button and that subscribe button. And I see you next week. Servus, Baba.
Was für eine Nummer, Frau Chefin?
8F.
8F, kann das sein? Dann würde ich Sie ganz höflichst bitten.
Also ich muss meinen Text merken, wenn du da jetzt eine Stunde quatscht.
Action.
Das weiß ich gar nichts mehr.
Jetzt weiß ich gar nichts mehr.
Ich muss immer lachen, wenn ich die anschaue, bitte. Ich will endlich was essen. Oh God. In the end, there were still 2 spots that had a little flutter. Okay, bitte.
Ich kann das Idee jetzt schon nicht mehr hören. Entschuldige, Schatz, jetzt kann ich auch nicht mehr halten.